Hey Cinders, and welcome back to Chicken Cindy's. Today we got the Kent on the channel again, and we're gonna change out the brakes. I know it's been a little bit since we've had the Trouvaille on the channel. I still have it, we're still giving it away, but I guess just other things have came up before I could work on it, and we were kind of struggling with figuring out how and what we were gonna do to give it away. So, Berserker Nick sent these very, very cool hydraulic brakes, and we'll open those in a second. And I'm gonna basically kind of concentrate more on getting the rear brake installed and just kind of teaching you guys like the best and easiest way, which that's where this bad boy comes into play. Like the best and easiest way to actually get the brake through, because you just have this tiny little port and then you have an opening on the bottom, which we'll get some close-ups of that. But let's kind of get into this and unbox this actual really cool looking hydraulic brake set. So the couple things we're going to need out of that little risk box is the actual cable itself. This is the magnetic side. We're gonna need the blue magnet part as well. And I already have my brake caliper on, and I've actually already removed the lever and cut the cord, or the brake hose, okay? This is the other part that we're going to need / be using for this, and it's the part that screws on. I decided to use this one instead of the other one that goes around the cable, primarily because when I cut it, I was able to insert this, and now I can let this kind of dangle, and I won't have to worry about any of the actual brake fluid like leaking. The way this works is very, very simple. You're going to put the magnet part, or that part there, and you're gonna use this magnet to bring it through. Okay. There we go. Once it catches it, you're literally just dragging it up. So if I let go, oh, you can't see that. You can see that this magnet's here because it's still holding on to the other part, okay? Once we get to the side, I'm gonna bring it around, because what I'm trying to do is get it out this hole. So just kind of feeding it through. And as you can see, we pull the whole cable out. So now what you're wanting to do is make sure this does not fall back out, because you want to keep that there. Back to the front now. So, since I've already cut this and got it ready to go, all you're going to do is take this little part out that I had in there keeping the brake fluid in. You're going to now screw that onto this part, because this is what's going to guide this through. And now you're going to put this back into this. This into this into that. And now you're going to pull it through. Let me move the camera again. There we go. And now our brake cable is through and where it needs to be. You absolutely do not need to take off your fork and stuff, but I thought it'd just be a little bit better of a kind of picture, or I just would get in the way. So now that we're at this part, it literally is to just, it's like a normal brake swap. It's just the regular way. It's just getting it through the actual down tube of the bike is a little bit difficult, because more expensive bikes with the ports like this typically have like a cap that comes off. Since this one does not, that Risk little set that I have is just a lifesaver. Same thing with like the Mongoose Sledge X1 and other more budget bikes that have internal routing. It's really difficult to get the hose through without having something like that. Of course, you don't want to take it off at the brake caliper because maybe you could think about feeding it through that way. But a lot of the times with actually taking off the brake caliper, the little hook up on the caliper itself. Hope this one looks like it's a little different. You might be able to just take this one off and feed it backwards. But a lot of them are like Shimano brakes, a little bit more expensive brakes. They're actually like crimped on there, and you can't really just like change those out as easily as like switching out the barb and olive. But maybe you can on these ones. But also trying to bleed the caliper is a little bit more difficult. But it is what it is at the end of the day in that department. So we're good to go now. I'm gonna put the fork and stuff back on, and then we'll just put the lever together. And honestly, the front brake is very easy to do, so we're probably not gonna do that on this video, but I'll be back in just a minute. This next part, you're gonna need your brake lever again, which you can just go ahead and slip that on if you'd like. And then all the fun little parts that we took off. So the little bolt cover, the actual bolt itself, and then you will need another barb and olive. And as mentioned, this does come with one spare set, so that's good. We're gonna use my fancy tool. I love this thing, absolutely love it. I'm gonna take this little part out that I used to pull it through finally, and we're gonna get a real nice clean cut on this. So this tool has that ability. It's got a nice little razor right there. You just put it in there. We're not taking too much off. I measured it off camera, and it's pretty close to what I want it to be. So now we have a super nice flush cut. We're gonna take that barb, we're gonna put it on there. So when we tighten it down, it'll keep it more straight. And now you simply, there we go, screw it in. And you're trying to just make this flush. Don't put it in super tight or anything like that. Actually, we'll have to move forward now. So, but you're trying to get that part flush with this. Hopefully that's pretty clear. Once it kind of touches, you're good. All right, and now again, you don't have to worry about fluid going anywhere too bad. It still can leak a little bit. Here's the proper order that you're gonna wanna do. Cover, bolt with the threads up, and now your olive. Also, if you put that in too tight, that won't go on the way I just did, okay? You'll have to like, some people will put these on first, which you can kind of do it however you want to do it. If your first time, I'd maybe recommend doing that first. But once you put that in too tight, it kind of expands it and squishes it, so it makes it to where this won't go on. Now comes the pretty easy part. You're going to insert it all, and you're going to begin screwing it all back together. As mentioned earlier, I don't think I mentioned this yet. This is an 8mm bolt. So, as you tighten this bolt, this is basically what is like squishing the barb and olive together and making a seal. You can over tighten this, and you can actually cross thread this. There's a lot of bad that can happen here. I'm gonna actually tighten this down a little bit to keep it from moving so much. I like these little Park Tool wrenches. I made a short of them once, and someone was like really dogging me over them, and I got them super cheap. Like no one buys them. They were like $3 a piece. I have 2 different sizes of them. I use them a lot. So as you're not over tightening this, okay? You're snugging it down, squishing all of that basically to make that seal. Because you do not want air or this oil leaking. Once you get to that point, you're gonna take this, slide it over, and congratulations, you now have a hydraulic brake on the rear of your Ken Trouvaille. For this specific episode of Chicken Cindy's, I am not gonna get into the front brake because the front brake is pretty simple. I'm also not gonna get into bleeding these brakes because there's tons of videos on how to bleed brakes and things like that. This video, I primarily wanted to show you a very nice and simple way and a pretty budget-friendly way to get this internally routed rear brake cable through the bike frame itself. So I'll have a link to this in the video description. So if this is something you think you'd like to buy, like I said, I've used it a handful of times now. I think it was like $12. I'll put here how much this thing was because I don't really remember off the top of my head because I bought it a little while ago. But yeah, we got one more video of the kit Trouvaille to do, and it's gonna be putting on the actual drivetrain, and I'll kind of go over how like I adjust and set up a drivetrain, and then we're gonna do the giveaway video. So, huge shout out again to Berserker Nick for sending us these brakes, and honestly, the oil slick looks so stinking good on this bike, especially with the purple. So a huge shout out to you, Berserker Nick. Thank you so much. I'll have a link to his channel, so please go show him some love. Just absolutely amazing individual that does a ton of good for the mountain biking community, especially the budget mountain biking community. So, any questions over this build? Let me know. I know it's been a while that I've worked on this bike specifically, but it was kind of in this really weird limbo stage. So hopefully we can kind of get this done now, and we'll move on with it. But still, to this date, I am very impressed with this bike and this build, just and how it's gonna be. So super stoked to give this away. But thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, take care.